Live here at 7:30 Eastern Time on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. We're going to move the show to 7:30 because uh, I've been having all these internet hits around 7 o'clock, and fingers crossed that we don't get them now that it's 7:30. So, welcome tonight to our show as we take a look at all the wonderful little weather things that are going on around the U.S. and areas nearby. Another sticky day, another night last night where it was low clouds, dense fog. It burned off. It didn't burn off. The sun came out, then the clouds came back. I mean, it's just been pretty much the same, and it's a little on the sticky side too, which does not make me happy.
It's a drab weather pattern, Joe, and it looks like what we're going to be going through is a very similar pattern tonight and tomorrow. I'm hoping that things will start improving after a front passes on through early on Saturday. But even Saturday looks like begrudgingly the clouds will give way to some sunshine. The brightest day of the lot looks to be Sunday. And then guess what, folks? Kicking off next week, it looks like right now with a little bit more in the way of wet weather.
Yes, indeed, and it's going to get cool. I was looking at the lows Sunday morning are going to be down in the 40s, and cool spots will be down in the 30s. And Sunday we won't be getting much above the mid and upper 50s. So it'll be a nice welcome change, and definitely more autumnal than what we've had. Yeah, it hasn't really been crazy warm. It's just that I think
No,
it's just that the humidity's been up. The low clouds at night and in the morning, that keeps the temperatures from really moving up. The flow is not really southwest or west southwest. It's more south and even southeast at times, and that's held the temperatures down a bit.
and that's been a disappointment because a few days ago here in the Hudson Valley, especially inland, we were promoting perhaps low mid 70s. We haven't even been close to that. We've been stuck in the same schmutz, if you will, which has held down the temperatures and also very damp. You know, Jai, I wanted to do some mulching this afternoon, and I just stepped outside during a brief period of sun, and with that little bit of sun shining on the grass, I could tell it was not worth doing any mulching because the grass, you could see how it was sparkling with dewdrops or raindrops. So I just can't wait until at least we get a day's worth of dry weather and everything dries out. And I might have to hold off until Sunday for that because again, Saturday, I'm not sure how you feel about Saturday. I was kind of hoping we'd clear out into bright sunshine on Saturday afternoon, but it looks to me like the sun is going to take its sweet time even on Saturday
I
in
agree.
burning
So
through the cloud
I
cover.
went for clouds, maybe giving way to some breaks of sun during the afternoon. Sunday's definitely the better day. Enough of that high builds down. I don't think there are any risks on Sunday. It'll be probably no worse than partly sunny. Maybe it'll be one of these deals that the further north you go, as you start going up into, say, north of New York City, it could be mostly sunny. You start to go down south of
Yeah.
Philadelphia, it might be more partly sunny to mostly cloudy. But uh, it's no rain, and everybody's going to be in the 50s. I think we can pretty much agree with that.
I think so. I mean, and albeit Sunday will be the brightest day of the lot, probably the brightest day we've seen around here in quite a few days, but again, much cooler with temperatures, as you just said, Joe, in the 50s. And it ain't no fun if I have to spend Sunday, on the tractor mower to mulch. It ain't no fun when it's in the 50s because then if you're going at a good clip, and you're going into the wind, uh, you get a chill factor like it's in the 40s. It's getting down to that time of the year. What can I tell you?
I got you. The Joe and Joe Weather Show, as well as Weather in 5, which you can catch every morning, is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, Long Island's largest rock salt provider. Rock salt, straight salt bag, geomelt, biomelt, mulch, recycling, topsoil, gravel, and more, no matter what size your snow fleet is. Or maybe you're just a single and you need a new shovel or a new spreader. Well, guess what? Omni True Value Hardware will meet your needs, serving Long Island and the New York City area. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue, West Babylon, New York. 631 756 1125. Or you can go to the website, which is omnitruevalue.com, for more information. And also, Joe, I want to just say a shout out to Frank Riccio, who is a new member of my weather platform on Patreon. And a big shout out hello to all the Patreon members that are on the board today.
And we see we have a number of people asking questions. Somebody just asked me, I think it's T Snowy. He was asking about what I'm thinking about the possibility for snow, not this weekend, but next weekend. Yeah, here it is. T Snowy 23. Joe Rayo, your thoughts on Long Island snow next weekend? VFG Ensemble.
The GFS Ensemble.
No, not he didn't say GFS. He said VTZ.
VTZ.
I don't know what VTZ is.
Yeah, that doesn't ring a bell either.
Neither does the snow.
Clarify, Snowy. Clarify. It's too early. People are people are jumping on the on the latest, whatever the latest model run, whatever print there is, because there's some kind of wave late next week, and we'll show you. And it's got it shows the dark blue snow in parts of upstate New York. It's too early. You got to have a perfect setup this time of year, and look, Hurricane Epsilon really threw a curveball into the whole upper air pattern by locking this ridge between Bermuda and the East Coast and keeping things from moving, because the snowstorm is going on up in the from the northwest to the plains, and that's where the jet stream's been all week, and they're the snow lovers there are benefiting from it. Temperatures actually, Joe, I was looking at some of the low temperatures that are being forecast in that area up when that's all over. They're going to be down in the single digits to near zero in some places up in Montana and the Dakota. So this is this chilly air up there, but with the ridge lock the way it was along the East Coast, it just wasn't. It's not going to get here clearly.
Right, right. I mean, there's no way that we're going to see any sudden winter blast. I mean, admittedly, it's going to turn chillier here on Sunday, as we just noted, but the main thrust of the cold air stays out of the picture for us off to the north and west.
All right, so bringing up the watches and warnings that are up tonight. This is what I do like this time of year better than the summertime, if only because of the fact that now we start to see more of these watches and warnings, and especially since we're starting to see more of the wintertime weather showing up. So we've got winter storm warnings covering northern and northeastern Washington states, not D.C., northern parts of Idaho into Montana. There are some winter storm watches that are up in various counties surrounding that. We have another round of winter storm warnings up in northern South Dakota and some parts of southern North Dakota. That continues into parts of Minnesota, winter weather advisories surrounding that. And with respect to snowfall, I got the snowfall forecast map. Now, some areas have already gotten snow, so you got to be careful when you start to use these numbers, because they may not count whatever's already fallen on the ground. But it looks like an additional 6 to 12 across northern Idaho and into Montana, down into Wyoming. And actually, Joe, this may be a good thing for Colorado, because Denver's got a 4 print on here, and they're still dealing with that vicious wildfire up in northern Colorado near Boulder. And that thing is spreading like crazy. So they really need to get into some precipitation one way or the other. So if it's not going to be rain, let it be snow, and that'll at least help to bring it down a bit. And it's a pretty wide area of snow being forecast there across Nebraska, Kansas, northern Kansas, northwest Kansas, small area there, but into Colorado. But Nebraska on up into South Dakota, Minnesota, and into northern Wisconsin and into the upper peninsula of Michigan. And also don't want to leave out the fact that we are going to see some heavy snows in Washington State, not quite to Seattle, but just to the east of Seattle. When you get into the mountains and go east of there, it gets fairly loaded in some spots. So some winter weather starting to show up here toward the end of October, which is normally when you start to see it show up, excluding the September 10th snowstorm that we had in Colorado, of course.
Yeah, well, this is something that we'll be seeing with greater frequency, obviously, in the days and weeks to come, and eventually, some of that blue and purple stuff will work its way all the way east into the northeastern United States, and We had our first really big snowfall last winter on the 1st of December, and who's to say we
And
won't?
for some places, it was the last
It
snowfall
was
of the
the
winter.
first of the last one. Isn't that amazing? I mean, that Albany, I think, got what, 22 inches of snow out of that one big storm. That was like 90% of the snow that they saw
Yep,
the entire season.
it was that kind of
Incredible,
winter.
incredible.
I know
Yeah.
everybody's. I see people on the board trying to grasp at all these analogs and so on. I don't know. To me, it's like just let it happen. Why even bother to look at analogs? It never winds up looking like any of the analogs anyway. So, I mean, their analogs are fun and they're a tool and they have some use. But I'm not a big uh, analog guy.
Okay. Now that you've made that
No,
made that
I just
point.
never. I'm not a big long range guy. I'm not an analog guy because that's always you're always trying to figure. I guess it's the nature of who we are. We're always trying to figure out the latest puzzle. And if the only puzzle on the table is what's the weather going to be like 2 months from now, 3 months from now, 4 months from now, you tend to gravitate toward that. But it to me, it winds up being meaningless. Think of last year and how that wound up turning out. I don't think that was on anybody's table. I don't think that was on anybody in anybody's playbook that I knew.
Well, I remember when I was working for a private weather service that we had a radio station up in Syracuse, WRHP. That was for Roy H. Park, who was an icon in broadcasting up in upstate New York. In any case, they were looking at a potential big, heavy duty snowstorm. I mean, snowstorms in the Northeast over the last 30 or 40 years. And I found an analog to that particular setup in Syracuse. And I actually just threw everything out the window. I mean, instead of trying to forecast using lake effect and whatever, I just said, I'm going to follow this because it looks so much like I think the blizzard of '66 that hit the Syracuse area went with that. Believe it or not, I was practically it was practically the same thing, and
Really?
people were saying like the only one who got this right on the nose was Joe Rayo,
Isn't that
and
great?
all I did was just simply look at a storm, a historical event from many decades previous, but it worked out that one time. But I will go with you and say these analogs sometimes don't always work that way. Sometimes you think it's going to happen,
All right.
and something curves a little bit more to the east or to the north or whatever, and you end
Exactly.
up
So
with
what's
something
the
completely
point?
different. Yeah,
So what's the
but with
point?
me, I was not big on trying to forecast lake effect. Um, and we also had we had a couple of states, one in Rochester, one in Buffalo. I hated that. I hated trying
Yeah.
to that. I usually, and I'll say this right out. I usually just went more or less with what the weather service went because those were guys who
You
grew
have
up
to
in that
live up
area.
there. You have to live up there to
You
really
have to live
know.
up there to know or get a
Yeah.
feel of that sort of thing. But that was the one time I did go with a synoptic similarity with an analog forecast in Syracuse, and I was lauded for that. And oh, by the way, like 3 weeks later, the contract came to an end, and we were no longer doing that station. And that
Just
had nothing to
shows
do
you
with
how
it.
much that so much shows you how much value that had.
Exactly,
Uh,
exactly.
Good lord. All right, so the U.S. satellite, I feel like I've just been spinning wheels here for the last few days. Epsilon is on the far right, still a hurricane, not a shabby looking one at that. The eye is still relatively well defined on tonight's infrared that you see. And of course, you see all the clouds streaming up. Again, it's coming in from the Pacific and just going right across and with the way the upper air jet stream is, they're getting that flow of air from Canada, which now it can be pretty cold, and that cold air settling in those areas that we talked about from Washington State on east to the Western Lakes, where we've got temperatures below freezing right now, and of course some areas have already seen some snow. Out of the first low that is actually the one low came out yesterday, another one came out today, and we still have one more to go. And it's trying to just get a look here. If you take a look in Colorado, you can actually still see that wildfire smoke just kind of coming out of those fires there. That just goes on and on. So again, let's hope they get into some snow this weekend and get so they can at least get rid of some of that. And here in the Northeast, by the way, you can take a look on the satellite, Joe, right over us. That stubborn area of low clouds, and whenever you're in a pattern like this in the fall, there's always one spot that never breaks out, and every day it might be a little bit different. And today it was sitting. I broke out. If you look closely on this, I know it's a wide shot, but the eastern half of Long Island actually, the further east you went, you had a little bit more sun, but there was this batch of low clouds that sat from just south of the South Shore of Long Island, crossing western Long Island to northern New Jersey, and it just never got out of the way. And you know how I know it never got out of the way? Because Sal Blandino told me.
And look how beautiful it is over. I'd say like 90% of Pennsylvania had great weather today with
Yeah.
lots of sunshine, and the southern tier of New York, the leather stocking region, Endicott, Binghamton, they must have had a goodly amount of sun. But we have been sitting underneath this curtain
Ugh.
of schmutz for the last several days, and it doesn't look like it's going to be breaking again anytime soon.
The good news is that the reason why we've been sitting here is the fact that we've had this upper ridge sandwiched in between Epsilon, which has really kept that ridge intact. And also the fact that Epsilon became a Category 3 hurricane, which exceeded expectations, actually helped strengthen the ridge. The outflow from Epsilon actually helped to strengthen that ridge. And now we're going to start to see, as Epsilon creeps far enough north, this ridge will erode finally, and that should start to get things moving again. Maybe not in a big way, but in enough of a way where this northern jet will at least reach down enough so that it pushes a cold front through here during early Saturday morning. I don't think there's going to be anything with that front. It's just going to be a matter of, it's just like a slow moving broom, really. You just wanted to get on through here, get this marine air out of here, this very warm, humid marine air out, and bring in some cooler, drier air down from the north.
And as I said at the onset, my hope is that once the cold front moves on through, we'll be able to get some decent amount of drying. But again, it's going to be a slow process, and probably the one nice day that we can hang our hat on for a decent amount of sun probably won't be until Sunday. Till then, well, just deal with it.
Right. And here's the view from Canada. You know what a big fan I am of that. I'm just gonna I'm trying to get this the toolbar here out of the way. But if you didn't have a weather map to look at, you can just look at this satellite. It really just tells the whole story in terms of the upper flow. And again, watch the flow, the way the clouds are rotating in Canada. There's a upper low that's up in northern Hudson Bay, so you're getting that cold air feed down. But it's all deflected because of the ridge that's off the east coast, and of course you see where Epsilon is. And once that, as I said, that ridge is going to go, it'll allow at least that upper flow, that upper air trough that's out in the plains and then on up into Canada. That broad bowl, as I like to describe it, will shift enough to the east so that we can finally clean house around here. And we need to clean house in a big
We
way.
do need the clean house. It's things have piled up on us over the last several days.
Yes, they have. All right, radar tonight. Taking a look at really, it's pretty quiet over most of the country. The exceptions are our friends in Florida seeing some scattered showers. That's not exactly breaking news. We've got some rain, even some thunderstorms in here, Joe, going on in parts of Iowa, southern Wisconsin in the warmer air. And on the other side of that, where you see this sort of flat-looking light and dark, light green with the darker green patches in there, and then you get into the darker blues. That's all snow in northern Wisconsin, northeastern Minnesota, and then extending back into parts of South Dakota. That is one wave that is going out. In the meantime, it's quiet as you go west, but they're setting up for the next system that's going to be dropping in, and that's why we have all those winter storm warnings up.
Yep, and I don't know, Joe. I guess if I had my druthers, I'd rather have the weather we have as opposed to the weather that the folks who or out on the plain states are going through right now. I know that certifies me as a non-snow lover. I didn't start out that way, but when you get to be our age, Joe, you don't exactly care anymore for all those cold and snow events. I can see
Yes.
now
Oh
why so
yeah.
many,
I don't.
you can see why so many people, travel, out of here and head south, let's say to Florida for the winter. In fact, I just saw the first sign of winter today, a line of senior citizens at the post office picking up change of address forms.
Yeah. Or having their mail
Yeah.
held. Here's our surface map. Let's see if the 21Z is in. Should be. And oh no, it's not. Usually by now the 21Z is long in here, but I guess they're running late over at WPC. But there's your frontal boundary. Oh, there it is. Here it comes. Oh my, there's the magic. East-west frontal boundary across upstate New York. Temperatures on the north side are in the 50s to around 60. South of it, it's mostly, well, the 21Z was 5 o'clock this afternoon. We even had temperatures reach up into the low 80s in parts of northeastern Virginia. And meanwhile, of course, where you've got this lovely almost 1040 high coming down out of Canada, spreading out cold air, 20s this afternoon, low 20s, in fact, across Montana into the Dakotas, low 30s as you get further east and south. So the cold air push is pretty decent. And by the way, even with that wildfire going on, it's going on in cold air because temperatures down in Colorado at 5 o'clock Eastern time anyway, they were mostly in the 20s and some of the higher ups were in the teens. So that cold air is pushed down in the plains and also in the northern and central Rockies. Again, that's where the trough is. So there's your cold. That's where the flow from Canada is. And WPC, by the way, now this is going to take us into next week through next Thursday night, and showing about a half an inch to an inch and a quarter of rain over the next 7 days over a good chunk of the Northeast. Lightens up a little bit as you get down into the mid-Atlantic, and then picks up again in the southeast, western North and South Carolina, northern Georgia, Alabama. Some of that is tropical air. Some of that is another low that's going to come out. You've got some rain of 3 or more inches, 3 to 5 inch rains being indicated from much of Oklahoma northeast into southern Illinois. Then, of course, in the colder air, you've got quarter to half inch liquid amounts throughout much of the plain states, and you get into the northern Rockies, it starts to get busier with liquid amounts up to an inch and a quarter, and up in the Pacific Northwest, also liquid amounts up to about an inch and a quarter. Some scattered rain even down into California, so less and less of the Southwest is dry. So let's jump real quick. We'll just take a look at what Epsilon is up to on the latest advisory from the Hurricane Center. We still have tropical storm warnings up, by the way, for Bermuda, but this thing is it's a big system in terms of the circulation. So the tropical storm warnings are justified with the gust to gale force, probably, or maybe a little bit more. But at 5 p.m., moving north-northwest at 9. Top winds now just 85 miles an hour, 31.9, 61.4. So this is going to pass a good 180 miles east of Bermuda. The center is. And then you see the sharp right turn it takes later Friday night, and Saturday, and then it accelerates out to the northeast, and then we could just wave bye-bye to Epsilon. It's got to go.
Yeah, it's the folks on Bermuda are probably breathing a bit of a sigh of relief. It came very close to them, but you're right. As that storm curves away to the north and east, still it's probably churning up the water some and causing some swells and rough surf along both the northeast coastline of the U.S. and also for the coastal areas of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland as well. It has been certainly an active season, but Joe, it looks like after Epsilon, we've got a spell of maybe a week or maybe a couple of weeks without any kind of tropical storm or tropical cyclone threat. And I'm wondering whether or not, here's the irony, we started out with like gangbusters and we were so far ahead of 2005, but I'm wondering if we're going to fall just short of reaching Zeta on the Greek alphabet list. That
Yeah.
was the end of 2005.
Well, we're still comfortably ahead of the 2005 pace. So I think from here on we'll probably see them pop up piecemeal here and there. And if I had to pick one spot that where something might come up, there is a wave that's moving across uh, the Atlantic, and I think that there's not a whole lot with it now, but when it gets into the Eastern Caribbean, perhaps sometime later next week and beyond, something might try to develop in there. But that's too far out in the long range to even speculate. So I'm not going to spend I'm not going to spend any time worrying about it. But in the meantime, here's our latest run of Le GFS, and there's Epsilon going out. You also can see the next cold front that is approaching, and this is our map that for tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. So there's Epsilon. Your high, your surface high, is again providing mostly an onshore-ish type flow. It's not strong, but it's enough that, as we said earlier, it's actually helped to keep the temperatures down, and it's also brought in the low clouds at night. But this front's going to come through Friday night. Showers, light showers in western Pennsylvania just completely fall apart. And then we're just going to have to wait as we go through the day. Looks like the front maybe is just a little bit slower on this run. Looks like it comes through sometime late for Saturday morning or early Saturday afternoon. So I'm thinking the temperatures might still, Saturday might be one of those stranger days that could turn out to be a little warmer than the last couple because of the clouds holding temperatures down in the 60s. If somebody breaks out into some sun Saturday afternoon for a couple hours, you might get to 70. But it's going to get really cool Saturday night. Here's your 1028 high that builds in for Sunday. A little shower activity showing up down in Southern Virginia and North Carolina. I don't think that gets up here. And then Monday, we start to see things change a bit because the high moves out. Looks like a little snow being indicated up for parts of northwestern Maine. Joe, that first wave that comes out Monday into Monday night, looks like the bulk of that rain goes by to our north. And then we may have to wait for maybe another wave Tuesday night or early Wednesday, or perhaps even beyond that to something more important toward the end of next week, where you see the models are trying to gun up some kind of low coming out of the southern plains and then running up toward West Virginia. And this is where I guess few people were looking at this GFS for next Friday, which has got snow up north of I-90 in upstate New York and New Hampshire, Vermont, and in almost all of Maine. Too early, okay? Too early for down here. Wrong pattern. Not going to work. And then after that, cold high builds in and sets us up for some nice weather for next weekend. And if you want to take an early look at Election Day, doesn't look like a whole lot showing up here on this model run. I'll widen out to the full U.S. view.
Well,
And yeah,
the
look, I mean, Election Day looks pretty quiet for the most part.
Climate Prediction Center had up until yesterday for around the 28th of October the potential for excessive rainfall in a large swath of the Northeast and Mid Atlantic. They took that down, or they took that off the table today. So I guess their feelings are that that while we may see some rain in that time frame just before Halloween, that's not going to be anything really to write home about. And yeah, by the time we get to Election Day, not only hopefully it'll be quiet and dry, but it may also be a bit chillier than normal. May be dare I say cold
Well,
for early
you
November.
you said it.
Yeah,
All right, I widened out. I want to just take a look at what's going on out in the west, and of course, you see for tonight what's happening up in the northwestern lakes with this low and cold front that's going to get through here on Saturday. Meanwhile, here comes the next wave system into the northwest, and this is why they have the winter storm warnings up for Friday night into Saturday as low pressure drops southeastward from Washington into Idaho and then down into Colorado, and it brings some of that snow down. Doesn't look all that impressive on the GFS, but sometimes with those systems up that way, the models don't always catch what's actually going on. There's some good upslope showing up on Saturday across Wyoming and that east wind, so that's going to help. And then down into northern Colorado Saturday night into Sunday. And here we go. So it just keeps dropping southward. And actually, as that does drop southward with that cold air, there's some argument that there might be some snows in northern New Mexico, northwest Texas, the Oklahoma Panhandle into Kansas on Monday into Monday night. So that'll be something we'll probably be talking about on Sunday on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which you can
That'll
watch
be
at
a,
11 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time.
yes,
Shameless
and
self-promotion.
that'll be our last Sunday for a while on daylight saving time, because not this weekend, but the following weekend, we're going back on standard time, and I'm so happy for that.
Yes, because then everything comes in an hour early, or an hour earlier for the show anyway. So we have everything. We've looked at everything, at least in theory.
Yes.
Here's your upper air. The progression again. If you watch those short waves in Canada, just go well by to our north and west because of the ridge that's off the east coast. We're now up to Thursday. The ridge starts to break down tonight and Friday, and then you see the blue area in eastern Canada from James Bay southward. So there's a little short wave pushing through there. That's enough to get our front through, and then the stronger trough that drops down into the plains and into the central Rockies. And that's your snowmaker that the models are picking up on for possibilities in New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma, West Texas and Oklahoma, I should say, for the early part of next week. And then running along in the longer term, that energy does come out, and maybe that'll be the one that'll bring some significant rain here later next week. And in the long range, just really fast, just look at the upper air here. I'm going to put the North America view up, Mr. Rayo. No sign of blocking. That went away thanks to Epsilon. The pattern looks, I don't know, it just kind of looks like more of the same nonsense. Uh, Things moving along. Ridge tries to pop up briefly at the end of next week along the East Coast and then sort of goes away. And I am seeing something being picked up in the East Central Caribbean in the long range, but that winds up going well to the west because there's a big upper high that builds later. This is late in the forecast period in the Gulf of Mexico, so that's going to keep anything that develops down there, and won't have access to westerly winds in the upper atmosphere or southwesterly winds in the upper atmosphere to move it up toward the U.S. At least that's the plan. Yeah, I don't see anything too much in the long range going into the first week of November. That's terribly impressive.
Yeah, it's somebody here on the chat board is telling me to turn the squelch down. I have no control over my microphone. I mean, the microphone pops up with the camera, so I'm to change the microphone setting or whatever like that, or change the squelch or the way the
Well, I
tone.
could bring your volume down, but when he says turn your squelch down, he's saying to turn your squelch down. You want to
That
run the audio board, you're more than welcome to. I mean, I don't, not, I don't, it ain't easy, folks.
it
Believe
doesn't.
me, when you use this software that loves to just reset itself on cue. I put these, I set these settings up, and then every time Windows does an update, I find all the settings have been changed, and how, I always forget to check them when I've seen the update, and we wind up with one issue or another. So if there's a little squelch in your life, you can have some Squelch's grape juice.
That's a oh no. Latex Streams was the one who said turn the squelch down. Also, somebody asked about the meteor shower. That's Paul Roman. Paul, does it really make a difference because the weather has been so horrendous here in the New York metropolitan area? Now, if you have an area where there's clear weather, you might catch the tail end of the so-called Orionid meteor shower. That's actually pieces from Halley's Comet that we cross by or cross through every year about this time. The main event this year will be the Geminid shower. I noted yesterday that I've written an article about that for Sky and Telescope. It's an excellent shower. It's going to be great if it's clear, which of course it never is. It's mid-December. You know what the weather is like a lot of times in mid-December, but hopefully we'll have something to talk about astronomically then. I'm also looking on the chat board here, Joe and
Steve
somebody
Lapointe
said,
just hit super chat tonight. Thank you, Steven. We really appreciate it. Oh, also Alfred Phillips is on, and he says from Wainwright, Alaska. which is way up. Okay, it's on the North Slope. He talked about. Now I lost it. Where did he go? I see him there. Hold on. He said about pointing out the fact that the temperatures in the Arctic region are up 4 degrees Celsius, and they're seeing the ice melt is a big problem there. With well, now of course we're seeing the ice is supposed to be freezing up for the winter time, but I was looking at some of the ice charts, Joe. I did notice that it seems like we actually have more ice developing up in the Arctic region than we've had in the last I don't know, in the last 10 years or so. Perhaps the cold winter of the very cold winter of last year left them with a little more ice, but I'm not. I kind of just gave it a quick look. I'll have to go back and give it a double check to make sure I saw it correctly. But every time somebody tries to make the connection between the extent of ice cover up in the Arctic regions and what happens in the winters down here, it never seems to work the way they think it is.
Yeah, the ice last winter more or less was bottled up right around the polar regions. It probably was the first winter in like 20 years that the polar bears actually were able to enjoy themselves instead of sitting on a lonely ice a patch of ice floating around in the Arctic Sea. Whether or not that happens this year, of course, if that does happen this year, we'll have a repeat of last winter, and that'll mean milder temperatures. Because again, we had very few Arctic outbreaks or polar outbreaks last year because of that effect of all the cold air, that polar vortex being locked in over the polar region.
Bill Rogers has a job for you. He says, can you tell him what the dew point tomorrow in Newfane, Vermont is going to be?
Well, I'm not sure. Yeah, where is that? Is that in northern or southern Vermont? Because the weather front, the cold front, or the quasi-stationary front, has been going like this across the Hudson Valley of New York and into central New England. And I guess if you're north of that front, the dew points aren't all that bad. South of the front, of course, where we are, it's been rather what? You've been calling it sticky.
Yes, sticky. That's my adjective for it.
And that front is going to actually go all the way to the north tomorrow. So I would assume that means that Vermont is going to also turn a bit on the humid side.
Christinapedia just ordered Carvel via Uber Eats. Very good. Good way to pass the evening time. And rain over Florida moving out soon. They've got 7 inches since Monday by where his mom lives. There's still going to be more rain on and off into South Florida with the easterly flow. You're going to have to wait. You got to get the jet to come down and just pull a whole cold front through, and that doesn't really look like is going to. Steve S says I need to pull my base down. Well,
now, where does David Schwartz live?
What's that?
Where does David Schwartz live?
He's in Queens.
He's in Queens.
Yeah, but his mom's in Florida.
He's saying boo standard time, daylight saving time year round.
No. Standard time year round. It doesn't make a difference. It's the number that's on the clock. It's the same. It's the same hours. It's the same. It's the same number of hours for sun. It's the same number of hours for dark. There's no difference.
We're not saving anything. We're just simply displacing an hour's worth of daylight to another part of the day. And David.
I'm sorry, but Bill Rogers just struck me as funny because I guess not only do they not have Cracker Barrels in Vermont, but apparently they don't have Carvels either.
I don't know what Carvel is.
It's an ice cream chain that's in southern New York, but I don't know if Carvels are legal in Vermont. They might not be. Maybe that's why they're not there. I would think actually from a standpoint that the state of Vermont's probably got has a lot of mom and pop ice cream shops. I would think that they would try to keep the bigger chains out.
Well, just getting back quickly to David Schwartz, I don't know whether David Schwartz was around in 1974 during the so-called energy crisis, in which Congress decided, hey, let's try to make it lighter in the afternoons during the winter. And so they made daylight saving time, they extended it into January. And everybody said, wow, that's a great idea. Well, why didn't we do that earlier? And they did. And it didn't dawn on anyone that by putting daylight saving time in January, that sunrise, instead of coming at 7:30, came at 8:30 in the morning. And all of a sudden, all the moms in the tri-state area here, suddenly they looked out and said, why is it so dark? What's going on here? And oh, I can't send my little boy or my little girl out in the darkness to the bus to wait for the bus.
Right.
And then there was the big thing with the radio stations in the area giving out, or having contests. They were giving out flashlights. And right after that winter, they said, that's it. We're not. It was an interesting experiment, but we're not going to do this again. And daylight saving time in January went kaput.
But it depends on what longitude you're at, because when I was down in Georgia back last week in north of Atlanta, because Atlanta is west of 80 degrees west. Okay.
Right. I don't know why they're on Eastern time. They really should be.
They're on Eastern time. It was dark until almost 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And with another, we still have 9 days left of this month, and then maybe another 10 days before we go to standard time. They're seeing sunrises after 8 o'clock in the morning, so it's dark there when the kids get on the bus to go to school. They're used to that. That's how it is every year.
If you live on the western flank of any time zone, be it Eastern, Central, Mountain time, if you're on right at the point where you transition over into the next time zone, that means that for you, the sunrise is going to come exceedingly late. If you're still on daylight saving time in the winter, there may be if we made DST year round, there will be places in the Eastern time zone, like Pittsburgh, for example, or Indiana, that won't see the sunrise until like 9 o'clock in the morning. That's crazy.
Right.
I don't see how anybody could put up with something like that. Keep it the way it is now. I mean, the mind boggles as to why you would want daylight saving time for the entire year. And I'm with you, Joe.
I
should just can the whole thing and just keep it standard time all through the entire year, which of course also means that in the summer, that in June, the sun will coming up at 4:30 in the morning. But who cares?
Yes, exactly. Now the chairman's not here tonight because he's working, doing deliveries. But he did ask if we venture a guess as to when the first New York City snowfall is going to be this year. The first measurable snowfall.
Oh, what do you want to do? Like a pool?
I don't know, and maybe you folks on the chat board might want to think about what you think. The park is going to when we're going to have our first snowfall.
You and I went to City College, and every year at City College, we would have the annual snow pool when the first official inch at Central Park was measured.
In years where you had to wait a while to get that.
Exactly. I don't really know. Last winter we had the first significant snowfall on December 1st. Maybe this year we'll have to wait until February for that to happen.
The snow lovers will have to if they go through a third year of subnormal snowfall in the I-95 corridor. There's going to be such gnashing of teeth. I'm going to say I think what's the average? Do you remember what the average day for the first inch is? That like December 11th or 9th or something like that?
I honestly don't. I always thought it was like the first week of December.
Somewhere around there is the first inch is around that day. I'll say before Thanksgiving, maybe we'll have. When we say measurable, that means like 0.1. So if we get a tenth of an inch officially, that's measurable. So I'll say before Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving this year is on what day? 1, 2, 3. The 27th is it? Is it like toward the late in the month?
In fact, it's 5 weeks from today.
Thanksgiving is 5 weeks from today.
5 weeks from today is Thanksgiving.
Wow,
cool. Yeah, put it on your calendar. 10 days from now, we go back to standard time. 5 weeks from today is Thanksgiving. 9 weeks from today is Christmas Eve, and 10 weeks from today, thank God, New Year's Eve, the end of 2020. And hopefully much better for 2021.
Well, it couldn't be worse. Still
Yeah.
plenty of time for that volcano. There was by the way, I think there was a little earthquake up north of you today somewhere in the Hudson Valley. I
Oh,
saw somebody post about it.
I
Unless I misread maybe I didn't look at the date. Perhaps it was a past post that showed up. But I don't think it was. But that there was like some kind of small earthquake. So I'm still holding out hope that new volcano will be born somewhere in the Northeast. But we still have time to get a hurricane up the East Coast that becomes post tropical and produces a major snowstorm for the interior Northeast. That would, to me, fit into the mode of the 2020 bingo card. If you have that on your bingo card, you win. So we'll see. But who knows? I see a few folks throwing up a few dates. New York Jet fan, 1991, November 26th. But let me ask you, is that the date of the first snow, or is that the day that the Jets are going to win their first game of the season?
oh God.
I'm sorry, I had to do that. I had to.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had to.
It's crazy. I'll tell you, the Giants are in contention for a playoff position. And what is their record? Like 1-4?
Yeah, I'm not even paying any attention to any of that. I honestly, I can't. I just can't. It's I know a lot of people are into their sports and they have it. I used to be, but I've just kind of lost interest this year. I just have no desire to sit on TV and watch cardboard cutouts in the crowd and listen to fake cheering noise in the background and Joe Buck being Joe Buck. I just don't. It's not my thing. I just don't want to do it. But that's me. I'm a party pooper.
Well, there's one thing. There's going to be a lot of volcanic action taking place in Tennessee in about 43 minutes.
Oh, I gotta go.
Earthquake,
Yeah, get your popcorn ready.
get your popcorn ready for that. Or you can watch Fox, and on Fox they have
Oh, be
the
nice. Don't
Fox.
get political,
No, no, no,
please.
I'm not talking
Don't
about
get
that. I'm talking about Fox.
political.
I'm talking about Fox 5. They're
Oh, Fox
carrying the
5. All
they're
right.
carrying the NFL game tonight instead of the World Series. So you have alternative programming. If you want to be political, watch everybody else. But if you want to watch Channel 5, Fox 5 here in New York, they're carrying a football game. I have no clue who's playing. I think it's the Giants.
Are
I
they
think
playing tonight?
they're playing tonight or the Jet. I don't know. I think it's one of the New York teams that's in that Thursday night game. I
Oh,
think maybe it's Buffalo. I don't know.
could be.
But if you want to watch something other than political nonsense, you can always watch um, here in New York at least. Fox 5 is carrying an NFL game in lieu of this World Series.
Mm-hmm.
The two World Series teams are off tonight, the Rays and the Dodgers. So you know, do
Yeah.
whatever you want to watch.
Yeah. All right. So let's call it a night. Let's give a shout out one more time to our
Maybe
new
Ford says Giants are playing tonight. So
Giants. Are
if you're a Giant fan, this has implications for playoffs. You may actually win your second game of the season tonight if they come out on top.
right. Well, the Joe and Joe Show brought to you by the Omni True Value Hardware Store, Long Island's largest rock salt provider, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue, West Babylon, New York, 631-756-1125. Website is omnitruevalue.com. Never too early to get your winter weather equipment, Mr. Rayo. And I think maybe one day we'll probably solve the mystery as to why the same people seem to go into these stores to buy shovels every year. I mean, I know they're not made well anymore, but for God's sake, if you're buying shovels after the last 2 winters, you're really abusing your shovel.
Probably. Or maybe it's the wife that's hitting the husband over the head with the shovel.
Well, it could
Get
be.
out there now and shovel that walk.
Exactly. All right, so tomorrow being a Friday, Joe and I will take Friday off. There really isn't a whole lot happening, so I don't think you need us to pontificate about a weak cold front coming through. So we'll take a couple of days of a sabbatical, and we will be back on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Weather in 5 will be up tomorrow morning, and again on Saturday morning. So we'll see you on Sunday. So do come out and enjoy the nice weather, especially by Sunday when it'll actually feel like autumn around here.
Actually, yes.
Nighty night, Mr.